shift back to fiction with the story by Elizabeth Klapproth.
I'm going to read a story that I wrote called Marlbone. It's a little longer, so I'm only going to read about half of it. So if it sounds like it's a cliffhanger, it is. It was a windy day in the middle of June. The clouds were big, fluffy, and white, and the robins egged blue sky. It would have been a hot day, but the wind kept the temperature down just enough that you wouldn't sweat, as long as you didn't do anything like weed the garden. It was a perfect afternoon for lemonade and sitting on the porch swing, watching the glories of nature from a perfectly groomed acre property. The old sign, "Welcome to Marlbone, population 285, creaked in the gusts of the wind. Marlbone was a town where you knew everyone's entire family history and they knew yours. You couldn't escape the gossip, even if you were a hermit like old Mr. Regis. According to Mrs. Washburn, his father was the town drunk and beat him as a child. Maybe that's why he stays inside all the time, worried that the ghost of his father will come banging on the door, ready to whale him within an inch of his life, belt in hand. Maybe that's why some men wake up screaming." I slowly sipped my lemonade that was just a bit too sweet and put it on the tray with oatmeal cookies I was munching on. Solitude is a rare gem to me these days, and I poured it like a miser. Miss Adelaide, the kindergarten teacher, said that Principal Klein is afraid of being alone. She says that even in his office, he has to have the door open to see the secretaries. He needs to be able to talk to them at a moment's notice. He loiters around the library, trying his best to strike up conversation with the librarians about any old thing. They've even tried to get him to join the book club, but he'd prefer to ask them about Better Homes and Gardens' new article on restoring old porch swings to make them look antiqued. He'll think of any excuse not to go home to an empty house. I don't know how anyone could think being alone for even an hour would be bad. Give me 10 minutes alone, and I feel like I can approach the world again. But then again, I don't have a wife who left me so much as a fare-thee well, so it's not like I have an axe to grind. "Gilly," I hear my name being called, the same old gruff voice that used to send shivers of desire down my back. I hurried to pick up the tray of lemonade and cookies. I was hoping he would stay asleep for at least another hour. "Gilly." The voice had a sharpness to it that it lacked before. I hurried into the house that Terence and I shared. It used to belong to Mr. and Mrs. Jenner before they wondered what it would be like to see the Mona Lisa. The house was beautiful once, brightly painted a soft yellow with scarlet trim, an aging Victorian that had one spire too many. It seemed to be the only thing that could hold a secret in this town. But now, the paint is chipping and peeling, and some of the boards are beginning to visibly rot or come loose. It would take maybe a month or two of care to bring it back to its former glory, but now it's filled with rotten memories and a dead husk of what used to be love, or at least blind adoration. I put the tray on the kitchen counter and hurried up the creaky stairs. I didn't even have time to blink as I saw that his hand fly out from behind the doorframe. I stumbled and fell down hard. The old Victorian let out a disapproving groan at my fall, just like Delilah Waters did right before Eric Jacobs pushed her down into the old broken mattress and raped her. Now I heard that it took her 5 days to start talking again, but that just might be the old rumor mill busy churning up stories. Tears sprang up in my eyes out of shock, though I don't know why I was shocked. He did call my name twice. "Yes, Terence?" I asked numbly, rubbing my cheek where his palm had landed, my engagement ring feeling cold against the warmth of my face. It was small and practically meaningless. I don't think he proposed to me out of love, but out of propriety. We had been dating for about 5 years at that point, and I don't think John, my brother, appreciated Terence being around. John told him to either marry me or get lost. I think he hoped that Terence would leave me, but against all reason, I now have this ring. Miss Adelaide asked me the other day why Terence didn't take it back after what happened to John. I just shrugged and laughed it off, saying, "I don't think I'm the person you should be asking about how men think." "You were supposed to wake me up at 3:30. It's 4:17. His green eyes that used to sparkle with laughter now only held contempt. His tawny brown hair was cowlicked from his nap, and I don't know why I should be afraid of a face so seemingly harmless. He raised his hand again, and like the coward I am, I flinched. To this day, I don't know if my flinching made him feel pride or anger. It's not like he ever showed remorse, just like Doc Warner when he killed his son for kissing Johnny Denton. He just stood there, gun still warm in his hand when the police came and arrested him. I'm sorry, Terence. I was outside enjoying the beautiful summer day, and I lost track of time. I stubbornly wiped the tears off my face and I knew it was coming, probably before he did, just like how Mrs. Monroe always knew there was a storm coming beforehand because of her arthritis. She rubbed her wrist like she was getting ready for a fight with the weather, a fight she always knew she'd lose. I don't remember much after that. I don't remember cracking my head on the door frame and Charlie Creed having to scrape off the bits of my blood and hair as he replaced it, Terrence making up some excuse as to why he couldn't be there to oversee Charlie's work, having to go to the grocery store or something, and just leaving the check on the kitchen counter. Now, if brains were leather, Charlie Creed wouldn't have enough to saddle a June bug, and even he could piece together that something wasn't right. I don't remember Mrs. Washburn pruning her garden as the paramedics wheeled me out of the house with Terrence crying crocodile tears, saying, "She missed the step and fell down the stairs. Dear God, will she be all right?" However, Miss Washburn noticed that Terrence's knuckles seemed all bruised and cut up. She didn't get a good look at me, but she was sure I was beat up something awful. Or Mrs. Adelaide shushing her kids as the ambulance passed by and making a mental note that the ambulance hightailed it out of Marlborough like it was on fire, with Terrence's beat-up Buick following closely behind it, disregarding the red lights just like the ambulance did. I don't remember the next day after Terrence came home and spent the whole evening drinking beer and shooting pool with his buddy Petey Davis down at the old dive bar they loved to hang around, aptly named the Honky Tonk, and talking about how they wish women would stop acting like mind readers and just become them so they didn't have to repeat themselves so many times. I remember waking up in the next town's hospital. I heard the blip of the heart monitor and the buzz of the fluorescent lights. I tried to open my tired gray eyes, but I felt stiff and sluggish. The soft padding of a nurse in comfortable sneakers was approaching my bed. I let out a soft moan and tried to crack open one eye again. Everything was blurry, but I could focus on the blurry bright pink of the nurse's scrubs. I sure hated hospitals, but I seem to frequent them quite a bit these days. The last time I wasn't a patient in one was when John died. They said it was something in his brain being inoperable. They said something about metastasizing. All I saw was him give me a weak smile and tell me to buck up, be strong, and make him proud. He was there for a month. I tried to visit as often as I could, more like as often as Terrence would let me. There was so much I wanted to say, but there's never enough time, is there? Well, good evening there, sugar. I heard you took quite a fall. Thank goodness that nice man dropped you off here. Says you were carrying something heavy up the stairs and slipped and fell. Good thing he was there. I wanted to roll my eyes, but the room was spinning. I wanted to scoff and set the story straight, but my mouth was so dry I couldn't talk. The nurse wet one of those sponges in a glass of water and put it in my mouth. It was cold and refreshing and absolutely humiliating. My jaw creaked open like when Eddie Vanderbilt had his jaw freed for the first time from its metal cocoon, when it was wired shut from a football tackle that cost him both his jaw and his scholarship. He could finally eat solid food again. How long have I been here? My voice sounded hoarse and foreign. Oh, a day or two, I'd say. You hit your head real hard. That and the morphine usually makes people sleepy. I nodded in assent, but that just made the room start spinning again. I felt gingerly at my aching head and felt my dark brown hair matted down from lack of care. And when I pulled my hand away, a few specks of dry blood were stuck to it. I can't believe that out of everything I had been through, I was actually concerned that I might have to get it cut. It was my pride and joy, and I hadn't gotten it cut since John's wedding. I yawned as best I could with my limited mobility, and the nurse went over to my IV drip. You must be exhausted from exerting yourself. I was incredibly thankful she could take the hint. Here, let me fluff your pillow and increase your morphine. I gave a half-hearted smile through my cracked lips. I felt like hell. I probably looked worse, but it didn't matter as I was soon unconscious again.